Well, welcome everyone. I'm Nicolas, and I'm a software craftsman at Codurance. So we do meet up at Codurance because we believe that sharing knowledge is important. And by the way, if at some point you would like to do a presentation with us, just get in touch with us, and we can organize that for you. This session will be presented by Javier, who is a software craftsman at Codurance as well. And we will speak about Git and more specifically about how to screw up with Git and then how to get out from annoying situation that we can encounter when we do complex stuff with Git. And I think that's all from my side. So Javier, if you want to start
Thank
presenting.
you. Thank you. Thank you very much, each of you for coming today. Well, my name, as Nicolas said, my name is Javier Chacana. I'm a software craftsman at Codurance, and I will start sharing my screen. One moment. I have a little presentation prepared. One thing I would like to get from you guys, if you'd like to participate of the whole process of screwing everything, just let me know, and I can add you immediately as a collaborator to the little repository that I have prepared, which is actually an empty repository. You'll see later why. This session can be useful for beginners, also for people who know a lot of Git. They can get something out of this session, and people who worked daily with it, but they don't know what they're doing. I would say that that's the people that will get the most out of this session. And well, we've all been there. I learn new things about Git every day, so I know that field. Um, Probably you will all feel the same way. Well, this is the reason. This is the reason why we do version control, in order to avoid this. If you've been coding, if you've been in this industry for a few years, probably you faced one of these issues, like handing over code to a coworker through I don't know, through an email, through a disk, I don't know, an USB drive. Have you been there? Uh, if you have more than 10 years, or yeah, if you have more than 10 years in the industry, probably you've at least you've landed in a company that did that way. And I know, so don't tell me that you haven't been there. Also, probably you have been here both times or more frequently than you want. And actually, this is a horribly solved conflict. And or even here, this is really common. You're working on your feature branch that started here, and then suddenly your beloved coworker merged into master before you. So what do you do in that case? We've all been here in all these cases. Fear no more. This will be mostly a presentation based on live interactions. So that's why Nicolas will help me. But if you want to also participate live on this, you're more than welcome. And it's going to be fun. So let's start with some basics. My first, for newcomers, actually my first recommendation is to use a graphical tool instead of the command line. And you'll see why. You'll see why. And then I'll go through this first couple of points. But the first thing is that I want to start a new project here. So as you can see, this is a completely empty folder with nothing in it. And I will simply initialize this repository. If you are a newcomer, Git init, what it does is to simply set a local repository. And this is our first stop. What is a repository? And in order to clarify that, I need to go back to my presentation and tell you a bit about what are the types of version control systems that exist. We have basically two. So we have centralized and distributed. In the centralized the centralized version control systems are mostly those that appeared maybe 20 years ago or even more. CVS, Subversion, those from Microsoft, I don't remember the name at this moment. Those are centralized. And what does that mean? That we only have one repository and then a different set of working copies, which is the next concept. Then the other type of version control system is distributed. In distributed, we have a central repository, and then different number of repositories on your local machines that then those map to your working copy. So that's different, and that's why in this case my repository, my Git initialization here was a new repository. I have a working copy and at the same time a repository. What's the idea here? Or what's the what does this allow? This allows me to start committing files, but I won't do that here. I'm going to rely on this little tool called source tree. I'm going to add a local repository just because I can. One moment, I'm here and I'm here. So this was immediately recognized as a repository, but this is a local repository and I don't have anything here. This is completely empty. It doesn't have a thing, but it's initialized, so it's valid. Well, what is our repository then, and what is our working copy? The working copy is the files that I have here, and this differentiates from the repository in the sense that I can commit and have a local history. And then what is a revision? So let me now open this in a slightly different way. I'm gonna open this with my IDE of my preference, which is IntelliJ. And simply by opening this, you'll see that I already have a bunch of files that were created. So one thing that usually happens for newcomers is that they do this: git commit, git add dot, and holy macaroni, what will happen here? We'll have a bunch of files added to our staging area, which is another concept. Staging area is the place where you pre-confirm the changes. But what's the thing? I don't like those files. I think they don't belong here. So I'm gonna reset that and go back to my presentation, because what the heck is the staging area? Well, the staging area is this area where you can pre-check, pre-cook your changes, just so you can see them prior to the commit. So, and why I recommend using the visual tool is exactly because I want to see what I am about to commit. If I do simply git add and then git commit, probably I won't know what I committed. Sometimes you might say, yeah, let's do git add -p and view and check every change one by one. Yeah, that's good. But for you as a newcomer, this will be a lot better, because you can select what you want to pre-cook and what you don't want to include in this commit. So the other thing here is, well, how can I visualize these changes? I've just showed here that you can visualize changes in this little sad way, where you can see that these are all new files. So it's not really useful. Let me do something different now. And example number 1 of how to screw your version control is not to include a gitignore file. So I'm gonna go here to gitignore.io and generate my first gitignore file. So this project, or this page, is really useful to generate gitignore file for your application. And you can simply select or type the operating system, for example, Mac OS, and say that I'm in IntelliJ IDEA. What else? IntelliJ plus IML, yeah. What else? For now, that's just enough. And I can copy this whole file. I know it's a lot, but I can simply copy this file and generate a new one here. New file .gitignore. I don't want to add it yet because I want to review the changes. So I just added a new file. This is a new change. And it appeared here. And now it removed a few files that used to be here. But it still includes a lot of files as possible candidates to be committed. So I will probably remove them. So let's say I want to actually remove the whole idea folder. And now this will be my first commit. One thing, second example of how to screw your version control. If you don't make, or actually how to screw it up, make your project completely dependent on your IDE tool. So that's a way on a really easy way to screw your project, because now I removed all I just removed all the generated files from my IDE, and I can share this project with you no matter what type of editor, IDE tool, whatever you use to work with this project. It doesn't matter. This is completely agnostic. And that's the how to solve that issue. Make your projects agnostic. And since this is my first commit, I'm committing here. And now we can see the first, now we can see the first change and the first commit, the first change set. And I highly recommend having a visual tool to do that, because this is a lot more easy to see than doing this. I know this probably looks cool. And if you're doing everything on the command line, it looks awesome. I know it looks great, but it's a lot more easy, especially if you're starting, to see changes here. So now I'm going to, what's the deal now? This thing doesn't let me push because I don't know where to push. And this is another concept. So we have a remote. Probably you'll see here, let me zoom this. And this GitHub repository, states a few commands that if you don't know what you're doing, you may probably screw this up. The first thing is that it tells you to init to initialize the repository, what I already did. This thing is simply adding a README file, committing this as a first commit, and then setting a main branch, which is, I don't know if you're aware of the, there's a ongoing terminology issue related to some like some slavery related words like master. That's why GitHub now is encouraging the use of main instead of master. But in my case, I'll keep using master just because it's the most portable way to this day. If you find a main branch, probably that's valid for new repositories. But I'm very keen on the old ways because I feel like most of the repositories will still be on the will still have a master branch. So I won't set this up, and then this says set this remote as origin, blah blah blah, and then push. Or if you have an existing repository, as I do, you can do all this. Or if you have this tool, for example, you can simply add a new.
There was a question in the chat. Like you said, well, if you don't put like a gitignore file, some people, like for example, for a node project, might commit and push some files that you don't want in your Git repository, right? Like the node modules, for example.
Yeah.
So if you have it inside the remote repository, how would you do like to remove it in I would say maybe in a nice way? Or
yeah, it's completely possible. You can screw this up, but you can reverse that change. There are many ways. The first thing is that if you're already tracking a file, for example, let's say I don't want to commit the gitignore. For example, let's say I want to, let me first push this. I just said remote, and I want to try with another file. Let me first push this, and I will create a new file called README. Okay, so now this is pushed, and I am sharing. This is a README. I'm creating a new file. This is a README, and I will. Now this tool will first, it will show me that I have a new change, a new file to commit. Let's say I want to commit this. Alternative number one, I won't push. I will commit simply. This is a README. And what are my alternatives now? I can reverse this. So I can like literally I can reverse the commit, that is doing the exact opposite commit. That's one way. Or I can reset, either soft, mixed, or hard. For example, let's say I don't want to keep this anymore. But this is everything in my local history. So let's go now and do it in the right way. I will create another file called file to be deleted. This will be simply a text. Please stop tracking me. This is a great question, by the way. So we'll commit this. Please don't track me. Committing and pushing this. And now, as Herman asked, how can I fix this? So the first, as I said, the first thing could be to reverse the commit. Actually, that would be one of the right things to do. But the other thing is that you can stop tracking the file. You can, where's my file here? Sorry. I will make a change here. like hello. And here we have like this file. But if I want to stop track this file won't be versioned anymore, won't be taken into consideration. So I can stop tracking it. And what it will do is that it will, well, sorry, I did it wrong, stop tracking. So actually stop tracking, the action of stop tracking the file is to delete the file and commit that deletion. So I will do that. Actually, I will do that and I will keep this since I don't want it anymore. I will first stop tracking. And this file, I don't want it anymore. So I will remove it. And my history is kind of clean because I committed a file here, and now I stopped tracking it, which is simply deleting it. But this tool lets you do that. You can do the same with a whole folder. So you can do stop tracking on for example, on node modules, and I will delete that in the next commit. What's the problem? Or what should be the correct way to do this? You should ignore node modules from the beginning, because you should ignore all generated files to make it agnostic. If you commit node modules, you're committing all of the dependencies. That's not intended. That's also one thing. Another way to screw this up is to commit binaries. You're not supposed to commit binaries. So that's one thing. Well, I think with the interruptions, I think we can move to the next part, which is, yeah, I would like you, if anyone wants to participate now, or if not, I will have just Nicolas help here. If anyone wants to participate now, you can send me your GitHub account so you can be invited. Okay, great.
Okay, Sophia wants to participate.
Yeah, Sophia seems like
she gave her GitHub ID on the chat.
Yep. One moment. So I will find you.
Let's screw it up all together.
Why?
Yeah, actually, I was about to say that. Like, I want to screw it up.
Okay, you should have an invitation now.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'm gonna create a README file. I'm gonna create simply a README file. README.md. This is a README. You'll see here that I have now a new file that I will commit. This is a README. I will push immediately just because I know that I can't screw this up. So I will push, but that is one thing that you shouldn't do ever. Commit and push immediately because, you know, something can happen. But I know in this case, I won't screw this up because I was the only one. But now, okay, so Sophia and Nicolas, can you generate any change that you want, either creating a file or modify the README file or whatever you like. I will be waiting for you.
Sure.
In the meantime, I'm just gonna show you that this history looks, for now, pretty clean because it's simply one straight line. But you'll see as Sophia and Nicolas start committing files, you'll see how this starts to diverge and looked very different. Like, for example, it will start looking like this.
Do you want us to commit on the master branch, or yeah? I guess so, right?
You can commit, yeah, just commit on the master branch. And in the meantime, I'm gonna make another modification. I'm expecting something to happen.
Okay, it's done from my side.
Okay, so I'm not aware of your change. Let's say that we're working in distributed teams and I'm not aware of your changes. So I will probably not talk to you nor Sophia, and we'll do my stuff as usually, doing my stuff. And I will commit these changes. And yeah, look what I have here. I already have an issue. It says that pushing to this remote, my repository, was rejected because it failed to push some refs, because updates were rejected because the remote contains work that you do not have locally. Interesting. Why this happened? Because I tried to push immediately. I committed and I didn't notice that I had auto push selected. And this probably happens when you go on the command line, because you do git commit and push in one single command. So yeah, the push failed. I know. And it says that I am one commit ahead, but I don't know how behind I am. So in order to do that, there is a git command called fetch, which you can use to get the information from the remote. Usually, what beginners and newcomers do is they simply pull. They will simply pull. What if I do this? I don't know what's on the remote. I don't really know what happens. Oh, and I have a conflict now. Because first, I don't have any idea of what's happening in the remote repository. I don't know what you, Nicolas, committed or what you, Sophia, committed. So I'm blind. And the only way I have, and look at how this looks. There is, Sophia added a new file, Nico added a commit from another place. Sophia merged the master, and yeah, my stuff is really screwed up. So the next advice, or the next advice on how to screw this up is, do not ever know or do not ever know your merge tool. If you do not know your merge tool, you will screw this up for sure. So I have a couple of decisions here. I don't know exactly how to solve this. I have these markers that show that this is a conflict. Since I like to use the merge tool that IntelliJ IDEA provides, I will go with that. And we have git resolve conflicts here, and it will show me a pretty nice view that will let me select changes. I don't know who made this change. Don't try this at home. But I also said, I'm expecting something to happen. Now it's my decision to know exactly how this should look. Should I, what should go first? Don't try this at home, and then I'm expecting something to happen? Or discard changes and cancel merge? Let me try again. Or should I expect this first and then this?
Yeah, that's the thing. You cannot really know, no?
You cannot really know. And this is this is another thing. Another way to screw this up is to not have communication with your team. So when this thing happens, there's no really a good way to resolve this conflict, because both of us modified the last line. So we were both adding to the end of the file and supposing that and guessing that we were doing the right thing. Now we are both adding the same thing at the end of the file, and we need to know which one will be the correct one. So which one do you want to be the last line? Don't try this at home, or I'm expecting something to happen.
As you prefer, man.
Okay, what I will do is to move this to the end of the file. And I'm adding a few spaces as well. And I will complete the merge here. Now, my changes are completed. I'm getting Sophia's file, and I'm also getting the changes that Nicolas made. And also, this tool auto-generated a merge conflict message. It's saying that there was a conflict in this branch or with this file, and now it's solved. I will commit because I know that this is probably a good way. But again, now the merge was correct because I was auto pushing. I didn't uncheck that. So we're gonna fix that in the next commit. So can you guys generate another change? Whatever you want, any file, if you want to generate a new file or modify one of the others. And
yep,
I'm gonna modify this. Don't try this at home. And I will add this. Please try this at home, not at work. And waiting for your changes. You'll see also another way to tell that your repository is healthy is this type of branching that you see here. If you start seeing your repo in this way, probably there is a lot of like a lack of communication and probably a lack of how to say, maybe a bit of experience. I prefer looking at the repos in a more linear way than in this way, because it's not very clear how they merged or how they were integrated into the master branch. Okay, have you generated a change?
Yep.
Okay, I will generate mine.
Not yet, because this time Sophia was faster than me.
Okay.
Sorry. What do you want me to do? Like to merge or to rebase?
No, in that case, don't do anything yet.
All right.
Because there's a bit of a difference there. Okay, this is going to be something. And I'm again committing this. And it says, without information from the remote, it says that I'm one commit ahead. My recommendation here is always before doing any operation with the remote, like pushing or pulling, always do a fetch. So you can get updated information from the remote. For example, now I know that Sophia made a change on the README, and I'm also doing a change on the README. So I would like to see how easily this could be merged. There is a concept called fast forward commits, in which simply the commit is applied and no new commit is generated. And there is another way where you can solve this, which is create an explicit commit. I don't know what will happen, so I will try here, just pulling. And yeah, as expected, there was a conflict. But you know what? I don't want to solve that. No, I will solve that conflict. I will solve it. And again, here, resolve conflict. I know my merge tool, so I don't really bother doing like stuff like that. This is sorry, I've seen people, honestly, I've seen people doing this, like trying to solve the conflict from here and doing like, yeah, I'm not sure, should I use this? And then they forget to, and then they forget, for example, one of the markers. They forget that. And the conflict is solved because if I do this and mark this as, if I mark it as resolved, it will stay with that marker, but I don't want that. I don't really want that, really. So actually I'm gonna reverse that. And I'm gonna, sorry, did I? Sorry, this is now my, I made a mistake here. You know what I did?
No.
I marked the file as resolved. So there's no conflict anymore. Even though the markers are there, the conflict is solved. So yeah, oh, I screwed this up. I don't know how to do how to do this. Well, you can do the following. For example, you can reset and destroy. So that is a reset hard, and try the merge again. And now I have my conflicts back. And where's my, sorry. Did it close? No, it's here. Okay, so, and now I can resolve the conflicts one more time. And you'll see that, well, I want this to be first and this second. This is cool. I will merge this. This is now solved, there's no conflicts. So I will commit this and say again that the conflict was on the README file. And now that I solved this, I have two commits. My commit, well, I have integrated my commit, which is, this is going to be something, Sophia's commit, and a third commit that was the one in which the conflict was resolved. And I'm gonna push this. And now guys, Nico, you should have now another, probably you should have another conflict.
Yeah, so sorry, yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I didn't try to push or to merge yet, but yeah, I guess that if I'm, so let's say if I want to merge like the origin master into my local master branch, do you want me to do that maybe?
Okay, that would be great. And that is a good point to mention. Again, this is something that I see a lot of times, and some people don't know exactly what they're doing. Pull. If you do git pull, what will happen normally?
Fetch push.
Sorry?
Fetch, then push. Am I right?
Pull? No, it won't do. It will simply pull whatever information you have in your local. If you have fetched before, you will have the updated information from the remote. But if you don't, it won't do much. It will try to pull the changes in your remote. Let's say, can you do the change now, Nico?
Yeah, sorry, I was resolving the conflict.
Sorry, yeah. One important thing is that either push or pull can get other parameters. And this is where things get very messy, because you can, for example, be, as I am, git status. Let's say I'm in origin master and I can do git push origin development. And I can indiscriminately push to another branch. or I can pull from another branch. And this is a moment when I don't know what I'm doing. And I've seen a lot of people simply copy and pasting commands without knowing what you're doing. And that's what's hurtful for a project, that you don't have control of what you're doing, that you're supposed to be using a version control tool to avoid those problems, but instead you're causing those problems.
So you can pull the change after that if you want.
If I do git pull, well, in this case, yeah, it made an auto fetch, but it didn't make a push. It made a fetch and pull.
Sorry, I've mixed up. I mean the merge.
Yeah.
Yes, fetch and merge. Yes.
Fetch and merge immediately. As it, yeah, and actually generate, that is, it made an auto commit here. So now what happens if Nico and Sophia, both of you create different branches?
Yeah, and what do you want us to do with those branches?
Create a new branch and maybe add any change you want. The same you, Sophia. Name the branch however you want. As you can see here, it made a fast forward, which is applying the commit immediately, which was Nicolas commits. But with this tool, I could probably have more control. Yeah, I can do the same here, but I prefer to see the changes here and be really aware of what I'm about to pull, what I'm about to merge into my repository.
Okay, so my branch is on remote now.
Okay. Did you make the okay, you already did that. So I could simply do pull.
I think if you fetch, maybe you
I won't, that's what I don't want. I don't want to fetch. That's, yeah. I don't want to fetch. So what's the name of the branch?
It's Nico, then dash branch.
It did immediately. Great. Now, there is a thing here that I don't find it very healthy, is that I can pull from whatever branch I want and start committing immediately, this is a pretty common command. You know that you can pull from wherever you are and have that integrated into your branch. Sophia, have you pushed?
Yep.
Have you pushed your branch?
Yes.
Okay. So before doing that, I want to. Do you know how to create a pull request?
Yes.
Okay. Can you create a pull request?
Yeah.
In the meantime, since I already integrated Nico's changes, where's my?
So you want only Sophia to create the pull request for her branch, but mine.
Yeah, your branch was already integrated.
Right.
I didn't. Okay. Yeah, because I did the pull directly. So I want her to create a pull request because it's a very common workflow, and we'll see what we can do in this case. And I'm also at the same time committing something. I got the notification of a pull request. At the same time, let's say the master branch is already moving forward with a few more features. This is a new feature. And I will push this immediately. And we'll see what happens with Sophia's pull request. Great. We have a pull request with a conflict. What do you do usually when you have this scenario?
I solve the conflicts in my ID, in visual or whatever.
And in terms of history, how will that look like? Because everything that's in master is something that is already approved, is probably in production, validated by everyone. And your branch started a few commits earlier. What is the policy in your case to integrate these changes into your branch or to solve this conflict?
What I would do in my local, I would probably try to merge or to rebase my branch on master, because if I get it well, there is a new commit on master that there is not in my branch, right? So I would pull locally master, and so I could see like the conflict on my local then, and I would be able to resolve those conflicts.
Yeah, right. But there is, well, someone already hinted the answer, rebase on master. But that will depend, actually. Well, in this case, since we have a conflict, we need to rebase. We need to be sure that well, sorry. Before going that way, before going that rabbit hole, what is the real difference between merging and rebasing?
While we are merging, we actually save the merge commit. When we are rebasing, we don't save merge commit in history. That's the difference for me.
Okay, yeah, that is okay, Sergey. Thank you. That's partially correct, but there's something even more specific, which relates to the what it's called the parent commit or the common ancestor. So when you do rebase, what you do is that you have your changes here. Let's say we have these changes, adding a line that Sophia did. Hello from the new branch. So these changes are saved somewhere in a space. And what it does now is it goes back to this commit and applies this, and then tries to takes back Sophia's changes and tries to apply this on top of this commit. That's the rebase action. Whether, well, on the contrary, when you do a merge, the changes will start looking like this. Like you have diverging changes coming from the side and integrating into the master branch. So what happens here is that I would prefer to rebase that. But the problem now that we have is that this branch is pushed to the remote. And one rule of thumb for rebases is that you never rebase, or you shouldn't never rebase changes that are already in the remote. But for this occasion, I will do an exception because I know I have enough control I will modify your branch, Sophia. And what I will do is simply rebase current changes onto master, which is rebase on master. We'll confirm this, but we have a conflict. I will solve this. This should be pretty easy. Hey, this will be, yeah. So hello from the new branch. I'm adding my changes here. I'm applying. And when you resolve a rebase or when you resolve a conflict in a rebase, you don't commit. What you do is simply continue the rebase. And now the problem is that the history looks weird because I have 3 commits to add to the remote and 1 commit to pull from the remote, from Sophia's branch. That is because I rewrote history. What I'm gonna do is I will rewrite everything on the remote because I want this this pull request to look fine. Now we don't have this this branch that we had on the side. We have Nico's branch here, which is on this commit. We have master branch, which is in this commit, and we have Sophia's branch here. And if I go to the pull request now is green. I can merge this pull request. Let's say merge pull request, add a line. Yes, I will confirm this. And the pull request has been successfully merged and closed. So if I go here now and fetch, you'll see that my master is 2 commits behind because there was a branch at some point in time called Sophia's I'm a new branch and the approval of my pull request. So that's it. Now, this type of commits here look better than this ones here, or this ones here. Because we know that we have only 1 branch that did something and it was merged into the master branch. It's good, it's considered a good etiquette to, especially when you're adding features to an open source project, to always rebase and make sure that your pull request is without any conflicts. Again, this history looks pretty much a lot more cleaner than what this looks like, because here it's kind of weird that I did something, well, Nicolas did something in the past, while I did something around the same hour, and Sophia did something else around the same hour, and those were 3 parallel streams. We don't want that in a healthy project. We don't want that. But probably you're working trunk-based development, you're working trunk-based, or you're working pull request based. I don't know which ones you're working and what issues you have usually. Can anyone share any issues that you have, that you've had in the past? Nope. Well, I've had a few of them. For example, one thing is that, let's say something happened with this pull request, and I want to really revert these changes. Because I don't know, this broke production. And yeah, let's say I created a pull request and this is being reverted. I'm merging. And this will look like this. You'll see again the same little commit, but there's something here that I don't know if you have noticed, is that I still have the old branch. Did you notice that I still have this? So what happens if now I move here and I do something nasty. Let's say this is not something that someone does because they want. Sometimes it's simply because they forgot to delete the branch. I will probably do a last change here. And I'm totally confident about this change. And as you can see now, the history looks even more weirder because the branch, which is Sophia's original branch, was removed from the remote, but I haven't updated this. So I think the best thing I can do is first check what's going on with this branch. This was at some point merged in time and then reverted, and now I'm adding a new change. Here we can have, let's say I will commit. Let's say I will commit, I will push here. And we have this weird history over here where master was easily going its own way, but now this branch gone rogue and started doing changes on its own. And now, let's say this one requests a pull request. We'll simply create this. Yeah, it can merge automatically. And I will confirm. But definitely, I didn't like this. Look how this looks now. So at some point there were merges that went fine, but from a apparently closed branch, we created a new commit and we merged. This looks awful and this looks weird, especially if you want to then revert and do something like, let's say I want to revert this. I can probably have I can probably show you more ideas of wrong branches, but I guess you get the idea here. This is, I don't know if you can see this image here. Sorry. Oh, come on. Okay, this one with a lot of merges and intermediate merges and diverging paths and everything. This one, if you have this type of history, beware of that. Like, be afraid of it, and try to solve it as soon as possible. So if you have that, it's like, please guys, delete all your branches. Another way to screw this up is that I kept your branch, Sophia. I kept your branch locally. I shouldn't have done that. So if you are working pull request based, delete branches and try to keep the history try to keep the history as clean as possible. That will be. What else? I don't know if I can show you anything else. Maybe, are you all aware of the stash area? Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Well, I don't know if you have any doubts, any ideas, any experiences that you may want to share with this very accidented session.
Well, probably I could share one very bad experience.
Yeah.
Actually, I pushed force once, and I accidentally found when you push with force, you remove all comments on your code review, and that was kind of catastrophe, by the way.
And where you force push to master to a branch?
If you push any branch with force on GitHub, it removes all your previous comments in this branch.
Really? Because okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Makes sense because you're rewriting your, but regardless of whether you rewrote the commits.
Sorry.
Sorry, so you said that you removed it removed the comments, but I think I didn't.
No. Okay, you have a piece of code, and
Okay.
you've done a code review, and you have some comments on code review. On code, on your code, you have some explanations. You should move this because of that, blah 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 blah. A lot of explanations. And actually, I made a force push, and it turned off that it removed all comments, all code review.
Makes sense. Or it makes sense.
That's why it's like, for me, it's a rule of thumb that don't push force, never ever.
Yeah. Especially if you are in the middle of a code review.
But
makes total sense why this happened, because since you rewrote the whole history, the indexes of where the comments were, like, yeah, you should move this or that, are invalid because the commits the commits don't compile anymore. Like, we don't have the same hashes.
Okay.
So that's why that makes sense that it deleted all the comments. So yeah, rule of thumb: never ever push force.
Do you think it's related to GitHub only? Because it's strange to me.
I don't think it's GitHub only. It must be any Git implementation out there, that because when you make a comment on a pull request, you're based on a hash that was generated for that commit. Since you rewrote the whole history, those hashes aren't valid anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, because I remember working in that way in a project before with GitLab, where anytime we had to do changes on a pull request, we were using only rebase, and so it was rewriting the history. But I never saw comments disappearing, or maybe unless if one part of the code that was commented was totally deleted. So in that way, makes sense.
In that kind, yeah. Or one way I see this could not work is that maybe there was a rename involved, or moving a file around. If you move that, then the file is not the same, and any comment that you made regarding that file is invalid.
But I want to try this now.
We should try that, yeah. But I think
at home, obviously.
At home, yeah. Try this at home, not at work. Don't. You can experiment a lot with this stuff, and we mostly made merges and commits. I would have loved to have more time, but these interruptions were very.
By the way, Javier, do you use usually Git in your GUI application or in command line?
I prefer the UI application, in this case source tree, because of this view. Simply because I can detect immediately like some patterns that I want to avoid, or that I can, for example, look for projects that are very branch intensive. I don't know if I shouldn't show anything, but let me see if I have one. No, I don't have any available at this moment, but there are, sometimes I find myself with projects very intensive in branches and pull requests and stuff like that. And I prefer to see them all here than using this view, because it doesn't tell me, for example, like what are the different paths that each branch or each commit is taking. That's why I prefer this definitely. And the other reason why I prefer this is because I can select changes atomically. And for example, let's say I want to revert part of this commit, not the whole commit. For example, I want to remove that line. I can reverse that line here, generate the change immediately, and simply commit. Like I just reverted one line. And just like that. So that's basically why I prefer this instead of the command line. Command line for me is mostly for automation. If I need to do stuff with related to automation, yeah, I'm fine. If I'm working trunk-based development, yes, command line is fine. But usually, if I need to have this type of fine-grained control, I prefer this UI tool instead of the command line.
About the command line, have you ever used aliases?
Yes, but I
Shortcuts.
don't. I know. Yeah, I know. For automation, yes, I've
No,
used.
I mean for Git, for example, I don't know if it goes from the box, but in well, I don't remember which actually Git I use, but from the box it goes with some number of aliases, and for example, Git status, you only could type GS and it provides you a Git status, and actually you could open the command line, type aliases, and it will provide all aliases if you have in your
Yeah. Well, I'm not very fan of that type of usage, but basically because it makes me forget about the whole command. Like I know that GS, that I could write an alias and do GS, but when the time comes when, for example, I'm setting a new machine, will I have GS available? No, probably I won't. I know that many coworkers at Codurance, they do use aliases, and they're very productive in that way. And well, that's one thing. I feel more productive with the UI than the command line in this case. I've solved most and most conflicts and branching issues with this than with the command line. And it has happened in projects lately with my coworkers as well. So that's why I prefer this, but it's simply because of the type of control it gives me, which is different than the command line. Command line is very useful. It gives you another type of control, but it's not the type of control that I'm looking at this moment.
By the way, another question.
Yep.
You've mentioned about the atomic commits, and I have a question. Do you follow some specific standard? Because there is an Angular standard how you should write commits. I mean, the description of a commit.
I'm not aware of the Angular standard. I do follow what my heart says. No, actually, I try to follow the simplest rule of thumb, which is group the commit in something meaningful. Like if for example, I'm committing or I'm working on a feature, probably that feature or finishing that feature is a whole commit unit that I will use as a message. For example, I know that people sometimes they use the type of thing they are committing for example, whether it's a fix, a new feature, or if it's a technical task, then a description of what they're doing. Some other people include the ticket number, or well, the GitHub issue if they're using GitHub, or any other tracking tool or any ticketing system. I honestly prefer, well, the simplest possible solution, which is keep the commits logically cohesive. So if you're working on, I don't know, some user management feature, don't include in that commit things related to banking or bank accounts, because it's not part of the logical unit. So that's it. I'm not really aware of the Angular way, by the way.
It's interesting because I thought about it, and actually, well, I had my own opinion, and I don't know how to explain it in a very good way, but I related with SRP, single responsibility principle. But I mean that actually I may commit which makes only one action. If I have to write something like add, for example, controller, comma, something else, no, I will split these commits, because if I find any commas in my commit description, I will split them. It's like an SRP principle.
Right. That's one way, as you are describing it. It is a logical unit.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
And I'm looking here now at the, well, this is, I don't know if this is what you were referring to, AngularJS commit conventions.
Yes.
I'll take a look at this and see if it makes sense. At least for me, I know that if you want to contribute to an open source project, you have to take whatever convention they use. You have to adopt it.
Actually, another interesting thing that you've mentioned, that in the open source projects, you should rebase. But actually, I found that some projects, they use not a rebase, but a merge system. Merge workflow with commits. That's why before I commit somewhere, how to put it?
Actually, I would love to have maybe another session with this, because this starts involving forks and multiple remotes, and that spins a whole new world on how to manage those type of projects. I have opinions on how to work with forks. And I'd like to share them with you. And if we can maybe have a discussion around it, would be great.
It would be really interesting. I'll just finish the idea that actually before committing in some open source project, I generally try to investigate the history, because actually there is a big holy war between rebase or merge. That's why it is better to investigate the whole history and understand if the author prefer merge or commit, and then you actually use or merge or rebase.
Right. Probably if you see this type of history, that will tell you something about, they probably prefer merge instead of rebase. If you see a Git history tree like this one, if you see a plain history, just a straight line, that's definitely a rebase based history. So yeah, it would be pretty useful if you want to ever collaborate with an open source project to check their history and see whether they are more into merges than rebases.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if you can actually rebase two branch which are from different remote. I don't know. Yeah, you can. I guess.
You can do whatever you like. Yeah. You can have multiple remotes and rebase. I actually used that workflow. We had a base project, and we have many different forks. And whenever the base project was updated, we rebased against the original remote. Okay. That was our way to distribute changes across many different clients.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think maybe this fork, it is called like the fork workflow. like forked-based development. I think it's good maybe like for a really, really big project or open source
Open
stuff.
source,
No?
yeah, they use it, yeah. So yeah, I think, well, I think this is all I can show you for today, and we have extended a lot, I would say. But I hope you have enjoyed this this little session, this discussion. I appreciate your participation, Sophia, Sergey, Sven, Stephanie, KS, and the guys who left early, like those who were Zoom bombing. Yeah, I don't care about you guys.
Thank you.
We lost a
But
few people, but
we lost a few people in the Zoom bombing. No, but those I don't know what happened with them really. But thank you guys. Thank you for staying this late also. And I hope we can have another session, maybe on fork-based workflows.
yeah, that would be fun. Sure, and then with the fork-based workflow, we can basically all participate and screw up because we will have each of us will have our own repositories.
Yeah. Right.
even better. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I think we will close the session now unless someone wants to ask something or has anything to share.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.